I've been waiting 3 years for Arcane Season 2. I have been waiting such a long time for continuation of one of the best new series I've seen in a long time. That a show like this could be targeted towards adults, have full 40-minute long episodes, and look this incredible all the way through, especially with something that is so bold and groundbreaking with its animation. Its seamless weaving of 3D and 2D animation into this beautiful form that gives us Arcane. So after 3 years of hype, build-up, and expectations, wondering what Season 2 will give us, when it finally gets here, is it ever really possible for it to live up to those expectations? The answer is yeah, it could be, but also, personally, I'm not someone who really put a whole lot of thought into what was coming next. Now that doesn't mean that I was no thoughts head empty about what could happen or what we were going to see, but for me personally, whenever I'm waiting for a new season, I kind of just don't put any expectation in, just because I just want to be surprised with what they decide to do next. And I think that over theorizing and over guessing about what's going to happen next, from my perspective of doing reviews, can be harmful and detrimental to what we actually get. Because I think one of the core things to do when making a review is examining the piece of art by what it is and not by what expectations I put into it and getting disappointed by that. So I do my best to avoid that kind of pitfall. There were a few main things that I wanted to see build on and improve from Season 1 to Season 2. The main one, of course, being the core relationship of the series between Jinx and Violet, seeing how that builds up and where that goes. I wanted to see more conversation and more depth to that whole relationship. I was also personally really fascinated by Jayce and Viktor. I love Viktor a lot in his storyline in Season 1, and I think Jayce is an interesting character, and I wanted to see where this whole situation would take him after all the wheeling and dealing he tried to do in Season 1. And one of the things I most wanted to see was the continued relationship between Zaun and Piltover after the events of Season 1, seeing where characters like Echo and Sevika go from the moments they had in Season 1 into the aftermath of those events in Season 2. Now I want to say here, I've actually already done 2 videos on Arcane Season 1. One is a general overview video about what I thought about the series and the animation, and another one is more into spoilers and different kinds of characters and plot lines that appeal to me, and the way that Arcane Season 1 was able to very meticulously handle those kind of situations, because there's a lot of praise I have for Arcane Season 1. I think it was really brilliant with its writing, and so I get into that more in the spoiler section of my Arcane Season 1 videos. So if you're interested in that conversation and seeing where I land on some things from Season 1, then please go check those out. I think they'll be well worth your time. In this video, since we're talking about Arcane Season 2, and you kind of have to talk about spoilers for Season 1, when doing that, there will be spoilers for Season 1 of Arcane. This video is going to be primarily focused on my thoughts and overview of Arcane Season 2. I'm going to avoid getting into Season 2 spoilers as much as possible, while still talking about my thoughts and feelings on the characters, the storyline, and the direction in this series. But getting into those characters, I want to start off with the thing that I said was the most important aspect to me, which was the relationship between Jinx and Violet. Now, if you recall, Season 1 of Arcane ended with Jinx killing her father figure Silco to save her sister Vi, and then, racked with grief and regret for her decision, decides to take her rocket launcher and fires it at the head council of Piltover. We'll get to all the aftermath of that happening to the council later, but to start off with, I want to focus on Vi and Jinx in this relationship. Jinx's actions lead to the death of Caitlyn's mother, which sends her spiraling out of control. And it also leads to Vi deciding that Jinx is just beyond saving. Her sister isn't in there anymore, because even though Jinx decided to kill Silco and not Vi, she still just can't get past that this is her sister, that she's so far gone. And to be honest, Vi was never going to be the kind of person who could save Jinx, because on some level she can never really meet her where she is or try to understand her for who she is. I think it's one of the interesting things that I liked about a lot of the characters in Season 1, a lot of the characters who are portrayed as and are trying to be good people, like Vi or Jayce, is that they are trying to do the right thing, but in the way that they are doing them, they're treating people that they are helping as children, or not seeing them as true, fully formed people who have their own thoughts and opinions, who have their own traumas and things that they're working through and resentments that they have that aren't being addressed by the characters who want to help them. They just want to be a savior in some form of way and just want the people that they're helping just to say that they want to be helped and just to go along with it because we're here, we're making an effort, but that's not enough. It's just simply not enough for people. And I like how Arcane shows that. And it's not Vi who can pull Jinx out of her spiral. Because after Jinx kills Silco and destroys the council, she becomes a symbol of freedom, of change, of revolution in Zaun. Because finally people have some form of hope. Silco may have genuinely wanted to bring liberation to Zaun, but he also wanted to bring it in a way where he was in control of what became liberated. The council may have been making a vote to give Zaun to Silco, one that wasn't really public, no one knew about that. They had already been oppressing them for generations, and their solution, I want to get to this is a really clear point. The council's solution was to give Zaun to Silco, which is a bad move. That's not how you hand off power. You don't just give it to the drug lord who's going to be a dictator over the area. You have to change the material conditions of the people in Zaun so they can empower themselves and build something for themselves here. But that's not what they tried to do. We'll get to the council and Jayce later, but again, going back here, Jinx is basically made a symbol of freedom and revolution in Zaun, and that symbol has a lot of power with people, but Jinx is broken at this point. She doesn't care about anything anymore because she feels like she has nothing. She doesn't have her sister, she doesn't have Silco, her father figure, and she didn't really care about anyone else at all. Eventually though, Jinx meets Aisha, a child who's running away from a bunch of goons that Jinx just effortlessly kills, and Aisha decides to adopt Jinx as her new mother, basically. I see people describe this as her adopting a child. I think Aisha more adopts Jinx as, not like a big sister character. I wouldn't even call them like a parent. They're more like a big sister, And Jinx tries to be the big sister that she wishes that she had. She has Vi, but I'm gonna be real, Vi was never a really good sister. And going back to the events in season 1, it's very understandable that Vi wouldn't be a good older sister. She has a lot going on, a lot of trauma, a lot to deal with. Seeing her parents butchered in an uprising, it's not going to lead to a great childhood, right? So I don't blame Vi for this, but it's just the reality of the fact that she wasn't a very good sister to Jinx, and Jinx is trying to find her own self by taking care of somebody else and having a connection with somebody else. And I think that's really beautiful. And I think the way that it ties back in with Vi and how they try to reform relationships, not gonna get into details there, but how all of that works, I think was incredibly well done and very heartwarming. I loved a lot of things that happened with Vi and Jinx's relationship over the first 6 episodes. And I loved just seeing those characters together and felt like I got a lot of payoff with those dynamics that they had between each other. So that all very satisfying, very happy with how that turned out. Even with everything that happens later on, the more character-focused stuff that happens in the first 6 episodes, I thought were great. The other key relationship I mentioned that was important to me was between Jayce and Viktor. And this gets into a lot of the core plot motivation of season 2, so there's going to be a lot of things I'm not going to talk about. But because of Jinx's blast at the council, the only people who come out of that explosion completely unscathed are Jayce and Mel, while every other council member is either wounded or killed. And one of the people who is killed is Viktor, or at least very close to death. And Jayce does whatever he can to try to save him using Hex Tech. And that leads to, bad things, because as we saw in season 1, Hex Tech, when melded with people, seems to get a little funky, a little bad. A little, you don't want to touch that, a little bad to see here. But here you have Jayce trying his best to save his friend, but in doing so, Viktor becomes fused with Hex Tech and fused with the Arcane in a way where he becomes more spiritual. He's more like a god than a person, more spiritual and understanding, possessing knowledge and understanding of things that we could never truly comprehend. And again, I love the direction and depiction of this here. I love the astral plane and how beautifully it's done. Fortiche, the animation studio behind Arcane, is just so masterful. The aesthetic of everything just feels something you can breathe in, right? It feels so tangible in a way. It's something they're masterful at achieving with like the setting of Zaun and Piltover, but especially in things like these astral planes and these desolate wastelands that can appear. There's this feeling of creepiness and tension that just pulls at you, and I love it so very much. But Jayce and Viktor's relationship becomes even more strained by the fact that Viktor is at first not very happy about being saved in this way, but Viktor and Jayce's relationship takes on a whole new different turn with Jayce feeling so much regret for how he acted in season 1, feeling like he neglected his friend, and Viktor just feeling like he's on an astral plane, so he doesn't really, he really is a little above it all, I felt like Viktor in season 1, I always felt like had this soul-driven motivation. It's something that you get in a lot of, genius characters, right? And he had a little bit of that, but he also was from a lower class background, and he had so much he cared about with like the people from Zaun. And there's so much else that's going on there, and like how much he genuinely understood the struggles of other people because he is someone who struggled when he was growing up. And so like there's things like that that I loved about Viktor that I think carry on to what he does in season 2. I'm not going to get into where that all eventually leads, but like, he goes back to Zaun. He goes to help people with his newfound powers. He does genuinely care about the people around him, and you can feel that he wants to help people, but again, his form of helping comes from a position now of power, of being someone who is handing down cures for people. And in a way, you start to get this uneasy feeling that, while he is a genuine good person in what he wants to do, maybe what he's trying to do won't work out. Also, he's forming a cult, and he controls people's minds in that cult, and that's not good. That's not a good thing. Well, I guess not really control their mind. They're more like a hive mind, and you can talk through people in the cult, but they're all a part of the hive mind, but he's the biggest mind in the hive mind, so that's not, again, I don't know if that's good. I don't think that's a good thing to have done here. And I loved Jayce's role in this. I think his character goes through a lot, and, has to see that in a lot of ways, he is someone who idealizes himself as being like a Nikola Tesla, and he realizes in a way that he is Oppenheimer, And his personal struggles that he deals with as he tries to mend this relationship with Viktor, I think is great. And I am very satisfied by how that all carry through in season 2. So if that's something you're looking for, also go for that. Also, since we're talking about Jayce, I will also say that Mel, still a baddie. I loved her storyline in season 2. Not gonna get into it all that much here, but I love where they took her character. And I also just want to say that should be me. That should be me. That shouldn't be Jayce, it should be me. It's not fair. It's not fair. And the last big thing that I really wanted to see explored was that relationship between Zaun and Piltover. I wanted to see the exploration of those core class dynamics of the shining city on a hill, literally in Piltover, and the drug-infested den of corruption and murder and crime that is Zaun. And I really liked the start of that whole story in season 2, because after Piltover is attacked and half the council is killed, the remaining half decide that the best thing to do is, instead of giving them independence like they had all decided to do, was actually, no, we should have an authoritarian police crackdown on these dirty poor people so they remember who's boss. Which I think should cause a lot of people to re-examine what the council was trying to do at the end of season 1. They weren't saying that they were going to just liberate Zaun and let the people decide what their life is going to be. They were going to hand Zaun over to Silco. They weren't going to just tell people, you know what, we're going to build up your communities, we're going to use the mass amount of wealth that we've gained from your labor, and build up your communities, provide safe homes, housing, and food, take care of your material needs, build up your power, build up your community, get your organizers in line, and let you, the people of Zaun, decide who you want to be in control, who you want to lead, who you want to take care of you, and how you want your future to be. No, they just wanted to just pass all the situation off to Silco and wipe their hands of the situation. They didn't want to have any kind of part in it. They didn't want to take care of all the horrors that they have caused in the underworld. They just wanted to be done with it. And the second that they get blowback from the atrocities that they have committed, when the actual people in charge face the blood that they have caused to run through the streets of Zaun, they just decide, well, fuck it, we're just gonna crack down on these people. Even though one person attacked us, we're going to crack down on everybody. As I mentioned before with Jinx, Jinx becomes the icon of this liberation movement, of this revolution against the authoritarian crackdown. And I feel conflicted about how they handled this, because I don't see Jinx as a leader type character. She's not the kind of person who has any kind of strong ideology. She never really did from the beginning. But I also don't like that, this doesn't really go anywhere in the end, to be honest. I could probably talk about all this a little more in a spoiler video if you guys all want that, because, There is a lot of spoilers that I don't want to give away to people that I could discuss here, but to be clear, I don't feel like this goes far enough. The first few episodes, I think, are a good indication of what would happen in those kind of situations. I think the class dynamics that play out there are very interesting. I think in the first act, it does a good job showing the class dynamics, and it gives a lot of examples of how the politics of that area would play out. And this feels just so perfect. It's really exactly what I was wanting when coming from season 1 into season 2, was seeing how these dynamics would play out on a larger class scale. But then when you get into Act 2, and especially in Act 3, all of that stuff just kind of fades away and isn't really important at all. There wasn't, to me, a satisfying payoff, and the conclusion is really bad. I have a lot of criticisms about the conclusion, and I've seen a lot of people online make fun of this because they've also pointed out and realized how the solution to Zaun's problems is not really a solution at all if you know anything about real world politics. So, and this is something that's really important to the series because that is a lot of the basis for the dynamics of season 1. The entire reason the whole story gets set in motion, you could say it's because of all the things between Jinx and Violet and Jayce and Viktor and all these different characters, and you could delve into the micro decisions that each of these characters make and how they play into the overall story of Arcane. But in the end, the inciting incident for this whole story is Piltover's domination over Zaun. That domination is the inciting incident. It is the thing that kills Violet and Jinx's parents. It is the reason they have to grow up the way that they do. It's also the reason that Viktor grows up the way that he does and how he cares about the things that he cares about, right? All of these things play into the core dynamic, which is, again, the thing that I love about Arcane. Because this stuff is important, it is crucial, and it is good to understand that. I remember before season 2 came out, there's a whole hullabaloo of people, reacting to Violet becoming a cop, but like, she was dating a cop, like of course she's gonna become a cop. That didn't surprise me, and I thought that where that went was really interesting. But just the other things that are done and the kind of whitewashing that is given to Piltover by the end of this series, I think is, in a way, it's what you would expect of a series that, this isn't gonna be a revolutionary text. There's not really a show out there outside of maybe Andor who really is ever going to try to do that. Actually, I think Andor is the only one. Watch Andor on Disney Plus. Of all companies, Disney put this out, but my God, Andor is. Maybe that season 2 will disappoint me too, but already, I mean, it really can't because Star Wars already in and of itself, it has a lot of revolutionary aspects to it. God love George Lucas. Anyway, so check out Star Wars, I guess, if you want something that handles this better or in a more realistic fashion. Crazy to say that, of all things, but it's true. So like of the 3 things I laid out as being like key important aspects of the story for me, 2 of them I think they did a really good job with, and I think especially the Jayce and Viktor storyline all the way through, I loved how that concluded. The Vi and Jinx storyline, for the most part, there's some really great aspects of it. I loved like 99% of it, and the other percent I won't talk about right now. And the core dynamics between Zaun and Piltover I thought were pretty well done until the story just kind of forgets that it exists and drops it all together and just kind of hand waves that whole interaction, which I think is an egregious flaw and is the undoing of the finale, because the finale for the series is underwhelming. I'm just gonna say it. The finale was underwhelming. The ending of Arcane was good. I think there's a lot of good aspects to it, a lot of great animations, some interesting twists and turns. The ending of Arcane Season 2 feels like if Avatar: The Last Airbender had ended during the invasion of the Fire Nation during the eclipse. Like if the Avatar was able to successfully finish the story there, if the good guys are able to win and beat the Fire Nation in this big battle, then that's how, that feels similar to how Arcane Season 2 ends, and it wouldn't have been satisfying because, what Avatar: The Last Airbender did was have that fail and go past that and see where those characters go and, actually concluding their storylines, building it up and finishing everything off, giving finality to everything. And this story, I don't feel finality at the end of this storyline. Now, I know what people are gonna say. Well, this isn't supposed to be final because there is gonna be more seasons. There's more of the League of Legends world to explore, and I'm sure there is. I know there's going to be more seasons of a League of Legends like show done by Studio Fortiche. I know they're gonna be doing more with this whole setting and with some of the characters that are in Arcane. I know we're probably gonna see a lot of them again, but this is the ending of Arcane. It was going to be 2 seasons. This is the last one, and I didn't feel like anything was final. I didn't feel like it was wrapped up. I feel like a lot of the storylines ended and the characters' stories feel like they've concluded, but I don't feel like I got any sense of finality or satisfaction from those storylines. I don't feel like this actually concluded anything, to be honest. I feel like it was a real mistake to only give this show 2 seasons. This needed another season. Season 2 of Arcane focused a lot more on interpersonal character dynamics, focusing in on the characters' dynamics with each other. And in doing that, a lot of the politics and all the social stuff took a back seat. And I think that's a mistake. As I've said before, that's one of the core aspects of Arcane. That is the inciting incident of the series. It is crucial that be nailed, and a lot of it is just hand-waved away, and I think that's going to leave the series just feeling incomplete in a lot of ways. The character dynamic stuff was great too. Like the characters that the way they built up and explored these characters was beautiful. Echo's storyline was perfect. Episode 7 of season 2 is one of the best episodes of a show I've seen in a long time. It's really, really good. The writing of this season, I criticized season 1 because I thought a lot of the writing for the characters and their setups seemed kind of cliche, and season 2 was able to move past that, and I didn't feel that clichéness at all. I felt like they were doing something original and diving into these characters in unique, fascinating ways, interacting with their world and with the powers that they have here and their dynamics and their own interesting characteristics to build something new and unique that didn't feel like it was trapped in a trope to start it off, right? And again, that's great. That's beautiful. That should have been the second season, the middle part here, right? Where you get more of that exploration into this. And then the third season can refocus back on the more epic scale, getting back to the bigger dynamics at play, getting back to these bigger conflicts and trying to actually resolve the whole inciting incident for the series, the whole reason that everything in this story happens, which is the conflict and domination of Piltover over Zaun. I don't feel like that's concluded. I feel like it was just forgotten about for the most part, and I feel like that's a huge mistake for this series, and it makes the conclusion just unfortunate and unsatisfying. Needed another season. Whoever decided to make this 2 seasons made a mistake. I'm just gonna say that right here. Which is unfortunate because I do love a lot of what season 2 has to offer, and I do recommend that people watch it. It's just not going to be everything that I wanted it to be. Which is unfortunate. Again, there's a lot more I can dig into here. I can do a whole spoiler video getting into the actual specifics of this if you guys want that. Again, like the video, comment if you want to see more of that, subscribe if you want to see more videos similar to this. But that's everything I have to say about Arcane Season 2 for now. I want to thank you all for watching this here. Hope you have a great day, a great night, or whatever it is you're having, and stay rad.